Mic check, mic check. All right. How you guys doing? Okay, this talk is called Growth Through Acquisition. Okay, what we're talking about here, or I should say the real target audience for this talk, is boys and girls that are about kind of in my demographic. You've got 10 to 15 years experience in the game. You're doing a little bit of mapping and you're planning out the next 5, 10, 15-year runway for your career. I'll hold the mic up a little bit more, okay? And I want you to start thinking about acquisition. Very specifically, we're talking about shops that are going from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. We're trying to fill the funnel to build the next generation of guys and girls that are going to be MSOs in this industry. My name is Bing. I'm here representing my partners in Collision Builders. Larry and Jeff, my partners, we come out of the CarStar corporate system in Canada, going back before the acquisition of Driven Brands. Larry was the co-founder. I built out all the DRP programs. Jeff did ops and analytics. 4 subjects that we're going to talk about today. The benefits of growing through acquisition as opposed to starting from scratch. What to look for when you're kind of speccing out your acquisition targets. I want to frame your thinking around how much you should be paying for your acquisitions and then give you a couple of tips on things to avoid. Why not start from scratch? If you're starting from scratch, you're going to go and you're going to get a lease. You're going to try to fill it up with equipment, fill it up with staff. And even once you do that, then you've got to get the cars to the door. When you're going and you're buying a shop, let's say you're a manager or you've got one shop already. When you're going to do this acquisition, when you're going to do your first acquisition, if you buy something that's already fully equipped, a lot of these things are going to need a little bit of upgrades in the space that we're talking about, which is kind of sub $3 million sales acquisitions. Maybe they're not OEM certified and you need to go and upgrade a little bit of the equipment. If you're buying a shop in this space or of this size, probably the folks that you're buying it from are the owner operators, and so you're going to have to replace a couple of technicians or staff, but it's largely staffed. And when you buy something that's a going concern, like in this market right now, pretty much any shop that can actually fix a car properly and deliver it is already booking out into January. So when you do an acquisition of a shop that's kind of in that space, you've already got a shop full of work and you've already got weeks and weeks of work booked up. So those are the primary reasons why you would look at an acquisition rather than starting from scratch. Network territory, what we mean here is that let's say you've got big plans and you want to buy your first shop or your second shop, but you want to be a part of a network, but the area that you want to be in already has somebody in that network. Just go and buy them. And when you do that, you're saving a few things because you don't have any of the upfront franchise fees. You still have to go through the approval process, but you also don't have any of the rebranding fees or the costs associated with rebranding because they're already branded. Integrating a competitor, I love this one. If you're one shop in a 2-shop town, don't go and open a second to get 2/3 of the market. Just go buy your competitor and create a little bit of a monopoly for yourself and then raise your prices. When we talk about location, there's a few things to talk about with respect to location. Maybe you want to go and be in have like the Taj Mahal that's in the best part of town, and you want to go and buy the nice shop. Some of the opportunities that we see in this space is that if you're willing, or let's say you're in a more of a rural community, a lot of times, I think we've got a few folks we're working with where they're the only shop for like 45 minutes in any direction, and that's a great place to be if you can handle living more remotely or a little bit more rurally. I'm going to merge kind of location and capacity here because something that happened in the last few weeks, we listed a shop in a particular market, and instead of getting operators calling us, it was actually the insurance carriers. And they called us and they said, hey, Bing, all the other DRP partners we have in these markets are backed up like 8, 10, 12 weeks. Do you mind if we send this opportunity to some of our partners that are 45 minutes away to see if they can buy this shop and turn it on for us to get some more capacity? In this particular case, it was like a non-DRP shop, 3 guys doing maybe $600,000 in sales. And we said, yeah, first time that's happened. But the insurance carriers themselves are actually looking to try and create capacity in certain markets. Another opportunity around capacity is, let's say you've got one shop and you're looking at an acquisition prospect, and he's got a 6,000 square foot box and he's only putting like $1 million, $1.5 million out of it. You know that with your staff and with your model, you can put 3, 4, 5 million out of a shop that size. That's a huge opportunity for you to go and buy based on existing performance and improve the performance of that facility. Staff, everybody's talking about staff and the challenges around that. I think that staffing challenges are only a problem for the people who cannot retain and attract good talent, whereas it's a huge opportunity for folks that actually can attract and build people. So if you can, if you're looking at an acquisition prospect and they've got 2 or 3 good techs in there and you know you can keep them, go and buy them, and you go and buy the shop, and then you keep the staff. From a reputation standpoint, I mean this in a DRP sense. Let's say you've got one shop, you've got a couple of DRPs, but you want to get the other DRPs, but you call the carriers and they say, hey, we don't want to spread the work around too much, so we're not going to add anybody else. Just go and buy the guys that have the DRPs already. Now, you're not always going to keep them. We've seen insurance companies turn off a DRP if they really don't like you for some reason. Even in the OEM certified world, I believe if you buy like a Tesla certified shop, they're turning you off for a little bit until they get comfortable with you. But most of the time, if you're a decent operator and you're buying a decent operation, you're going to keep most of the DRP, you're going to keep most of the certifications. Network status, I'll say up front, I'm pro network. We come from inside the networks, so we understand how to extract value out of the network. Obviously, it's not the same in every case. You have to get a return on your investment, but if you know how to do it, you're going to get some help. We see the networks helping with closing acquisitions. We see them also providing acquisition opportunities. So when most agreements that you're going to sign are going to have a ROFR in it now, which is a first right of refusal, and we're seeing that when something goes up for sale inside a network, they're going to shop it around to the other folks inside the network, so sometimes you get early access to some acquisition opportunities. How much did you pay? Now, I'll caution you, we could spend like a whole day on every single one of these points. I'm going to try to go through it all in like a minute and a half. First thing we want to do is talk about the price floor. We think the price floor is setup cost. So in the case of the one that I mentioned where the insurers were calling us, smaller shop, 3,000 square feet, older equipment, but still, how much time and money is it going to take you to take out a lease, put an older cross draft in it, and actually start fixing cars? It's going to cost you a couple $100,000 and a lot of time. So we think that the floor for an acquisition is a couple $100,000 or around setup cost or the raw asset value. Multiple of earnings versus a percentage of sales. What do we mean here? So, I mean, again, this is something we could spend a whole day on. From a multiple of earnings perspective, we see deals, most of them going in the 2 to 6 times range. Obviously, there are outliers on both sides of that. I get calls all the time, and people are saying, hey, I want to buy in this market. We think shops in this market are going for 50% of sales. My problem with that is that I've been a part of putting deals together at over 1-time sales or over 100% of sales. And right now we're working on transactions they're pretty good shops. They're busy, but they're only going to go for 30% of sales. So there's a huge range on both metrics. What I will say is, if you were to ask me the question, what kind of shop am I buying where I'm paying more than 1-time sales? You're buying a premium OEM certified facility. You're buying a BMW or Mercedes certified. When you're certified to that degree, you're virtue signaling to the market that you are fully equipped with all the latest stuff. All of your staff has all of the latest training, and they're all going to stay, right? And so that's the kind of shop you're paying top dollar for. That might even go above 6 times. If it's really big, 6, 7, 8, 10 times. When we're talking about normalization, we'll focus on some of the smaller buys here. If you're going to buy a shop that's under $2 million in sales, it's probably a family business. You're probably going to lose the owner operator who's maybe painting some of the cars too. If he owns the building, you have to consider: is he paying himself too much rent, too little rent? Are they paying themselves a salary? Are they taking a draw? Are they taking dividends out at the end of the year and it's not really showing up in the financials, or you can't figure out where to find it? You've got to go through and have somebody do that normalization of earnings so that you know what you're buying, and so there's no surprises later on. With respect to premium versus a discount, what we mean there is, let's say you're buying something of a little bit of a bigger shop, something that's $3 million in sales or more. We'll call it like the $3 million to $5 million range. In that part of the market, you're probably competing with MSOs. You're probably competing with the big consolidators. You're probably competing with private equity-backed folks. And we see these guys, they get the documents and they've got an LOI with like a real good price, and they've got that in like 10 days. So you need to understand how to come up with a number real quick, whether you're paying a premium or a discount, so that you can compete in that environment. And with interest rates these days, they're having more of an impact on the valuations of car dealers, because that kind of affects the demand side too. In body shop, if you're financing at 8, 10, 12%, that's going to affect what you should be paying for the facilities. By contrast, if you're a cash buyer and you're competing with MSOs or private equity that has a cost of capital around 7, 8, 9%, maybe you have an advantage in that situation. couple of things to avoid: spreading yourself too thin. I mean, if you're an owner operator right now and you're going to go and get a second shop, or you're going from 2 to 3, and you think you can prospect and you can do all the negotiation and you can handle all of the counsel and you can handle the integration and you can then start operating the shop and with just the same amount of people that you've got right now, you probably can't. And my caution to you would be like, don't, don't try that. Engaging the right counsel. We see lawyers and accountants screw deals up all the time. And what, I don't want to disparage them too much. I think collision businesses are sexier than law practices and accounting practices. So I think you guys are actually the sharper ones in these situations. I would say just limit them to their specialty. You want them to focus on the asset purchase agreement and the legal stuff. Don't start asking them for their opinions on how to run body shops. Last thing I'll say, probably the most important, because we're dealing with a few transactions right now where the buyer got all up and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this guy. And then he tells his staff, and then the staff tells the other staff, hey, I heard we're buying you. You don't want that to happen, because that's going to make your deal go sour. Personally, I want to see you make these acquisitions. I want to see more people go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. So my last piece of advice is shh. Okay. Thank you very much. That's it for me. I will see you on the floor. God bless. If you find me on the floor and you want to chat, just stop me. I'll chat with anybody. Okay. Thank you very much.